Afternoon, everyone. Hope you guys are good. Just maybe as an indication, if you can hear me, drop me a nice cool emoji on the chat. Um, yeah, and we're about to start with this session. Awesome. Thank you for that. Good to hear that you guys are hearing me. Jaros, thank you for the message and apologies for the data being depleted and going to the location while there's no one there. Yeah, we had to make changes because of the increasing numbers of the virus. But we're here, and we thank everybody that's on this call, and we thank the Paystack team, which I will hand over to very soon. So this is another DevLab session as part of Summer Dev Days, one of a few planned. And the aim is just as a reminder, this is not a hackathon, so we are not necessarily building competition. It's all about finishing what you started, and we're bringing different partners to introduce some of the tech, and hopefully you guys can use some of the tech within your projects that you're working on. They are available throughout, and they will be able to assist you guys offline as well during the course of Summer Dev Days. All right, without further wasting any time, I'd like to invite the Paystack team. Tulo, I don't know if you hear. I think I saw you now, no?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Mixo. How are you?
Hey, how you, bro?
Very, very well. Nice to hear
Uh,
from you. Let me turn my
you
camera
too,
on.
man. How's everything that side? Maybe you can just also just as part of the intro, just
Mhm.
tell the guys where you are, where you based, and then I'll just throw my hand over to you.
Okay, sure. So yeah, thank you for having me here. First of all, very glad to be here. Wish I could have been down there to attend some of the sessions in person. But yeah, my name is Tolu. I lead the integrations team at Paystack. I'm currently based in Lagos, Nigeria. But yeah, Paystack is was founded here in Nigeria, but has expanded. So we're live in Ghana and South Africa as well now, with plans to expand further to Kenya and Egypt at some point in 2022. So yeah, we're an online payments processing company, and yeah, we make it super easy for you to get started accepting payments on your websites or mobile applications. How's that
Awesome.
for an intro mixer? It's good.
No, that's perfect for the intro. I'm still envious of your camera,
My
but that's a
setup.
topic for another day.
This isn't even the same camera from last time. So last time I was at the office and I had the really really fancy setup. Today I'm at home, so still a nice camera, but not as good as the last time.
No, no worries, man.
Yeah.
And then now we can jump over to your session. I'll just hand over to you, and then you can take us through the session.
Awesome.
This is to everybody on the call. This is an open session, meaning that throughout the session, if you have any particular questions, this is not a classroom setup. Please ask the questions whenever you feel like asking. There's a chat, so drop the questions on the chat, and if you are watching on YouTube, please drop the questions on Sonke, so that we can pick up, and then we'll just be able to address the questions, so that everybody's at least on the same page. Cool. I'll just hand over the reins to you two.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So again, hi everyone. Very, very glad to be here. I have some good stuff for us today. So I'm going to be walking you through how to accept payments via Paystack on your websites. So I have a couple of demos. Talk a bit about how Paystack works and everything. And I'm going to try and keep my eye on the chat as well. But I have a couple of screens I'll be switching through. So um, if the questions pile up, I'll just find some time at the end to make sure that I get answers out to all of them. All right, so let's get into it, I suppose. So yeah, like I said, Paystack, online payments processing company. Some of you might have heard about us already, but if not, let me share the website just in the chat, so you can go ahead and check that out. And yeah, to get started, if you don't already, you can also go ahead and create an account. So let me share a sign up link. Just getting all the administrative stuff out of the way before I jump into the demos. So that's the sign up link. And then I also want to share links to the demos that I have for today. So I have a couple of code sandboxes set up, and I've got links so that you can all follow along and take a look at the code. Code Sandbox also lets you fork the repo, so you can, or fork the sandbox, sorry. So you can fork the sandbox and play with the code yourself and try it out. So there are a couple of them. I'll just drop them here, and then I will talk about them further as I get into the demos themselves. All right, that's one, and that's two. All right, so I'm also going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're just going to take a look at the dashboard. So what I just shared with you, I shared the link to sign up, right? And once you've signed up for Paystack, this is what you'll see. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. If you can't, please just drop a message in the chat so I'm aware. But yeah, once you've signed up on Paystack, you'll be led to your Paystack dashboard, which I'll just give us a quick run through so we're familiar with some of this stuff when I talk about it later. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have our navigation. We've got payments, recurring, and commerce. Payments covers most of the stuff you'll use Paystack for. Transactions is where you come to view all transactions that have been done on your integration. You've got data on your customers, on your payouts, which is the way that you receive your money. So if money comes through Paystack, you connect your bank account to Paystack, and Paystack will pay out the money into your account. In South Africa, I believe we're currently on a T+3 schedule, so 3 days after you get the payment. You can manage your disputes. We have a feature called transaction splits, which lets you take one transaction and split the funds into separate accounts. We also have sub-accounts, which work with the transaction splits. So you're splitting between your payout account and one of your sub-accounts. Terminals is fairly new, and it's a Nigeria-centric product at the moment, so we won't worry about that. But then, yeah, we've also got recurring, so you can manage subscriptions and recurring billing. And then we have a suite of commerce tools that we've built for people who they want to sell products, but maybe don't have the knowledge, expertise, or money at the time to build a full-fledged website. So we provide some pre-built tools that help you sell. But yeah, that's a quick run through of the dashboard. We'll be coming back here in a moment. But I just want to take us over to the documentation and talk about accepting payments a bit. So you can see on the right that we have pop-up and redirect, and these are two of the integration methods that I'll be walking us through today. So just to talk about them a bit more before we dive in, pop-up is a simple and convenient payment flow for the web, and it's today the easiest way to get started integrating with Paystack. In essence, all it is you're including a JavaScript file in your front-end code, right? So your HTML file, you just include a script with the source set to js.paystack.co RURL. And including that JavaScript file then lets you load the Paystack checkout on your web page. So it loads as a pop-up, hence the name of the integration method, that just overlays on your web page. And this is a secure checkout provided by Paystack. So we take care of all the security, making sure that the credentials that are entered don't get compromised, or sorry, the card details that are entered don't get compromised, and we process the transactions on your behalf. So like I said, very, very easy way to get started. And I will go over to Code Sandbox now so we can take a look. So again, if anybody can't see any part of my screen, or if I'm going too fast, please just drop a message in the chat and I will either slow down or try and fix my screen. So you can see here, I've got a simple index.html file, nothing else really besides some styling. And then on the right side, you can see what the actual web page looks like right now. So dead simple page here. I just have a simple form where I'm collecting the email and amount. These are the two required parameters that you must pass on any transaction that you try to initialize on Paystack. We use the email field as an identifier for that specific customer. And then obviously the amount is how much you're trying to charge them. Important to note about the email field though is that we just use it as an identifier, but that doesn't mean that you have to have an email address for the customer. This is important to note because you may have some flows where you don't collect customer emails, right? Maybe you collect their phone numbers instead. But what you can do is, because all we expect is the email format, you can still take that phone number and use it like it were an email, right? You could pass phone number at the name of your company .com or something like that, and then use that on your end to identify what customer that is. Okay, so you can see here on line 18 that I've included the Paystack script. So this is what makes all the magic happen. But we also have another script down here, which is where I do the actual setup for the object that we'll be using. So just walking through this very quickly, I get my payment form and add an event listener such that once it's submitted, I run this pay with Paystack function. Within that function, I'm setting up the Paystack pop object, which is what will show on the screen. You can see I have a few parameters here that I'm passing. The first one being key. So I'm going to take us back to the dashboard now to talk about this. The key here is obviously an API key that we're using to authorize this transaction. But it's important to note that with Paystack, you have a couple types of keys that you can use. So let's go to preferences and API keys and webhooks. So you'll see here I have my live keys and my test keys. But then within each grouping, I also have a secret key and a public key. So naturally, live and test indicates, live mode, production, and then sandbox mode, test mode. So we're using test because we will be dealing with real money today. But then we also, like I said, have the secret key and the public key. Now, the difference between the two is essentially how much access they give you. So the public key is limited in scope and can only be used to initialize transactions. This is important because since we use pop-up on the client side, it's always possible that somebody can inspect the code of the page and view, the actual code of pop-up. So that's why we use the public key here, knowing that even if that key were to be compromised and somebody else were to get the key, all they could do is pay money into your Paystack account, which is great. If they want to take that and pay you money, then I'm sure you're not going to complain. The secret key is your master key for the integration. That's the one that gives you access to do essentially anything that you want. So beyond initializing transactions, you could initiate transfers. You can also pull any information off of the integration that you want to. So that's the key that you want to make sure that you always keep very secure. You don't want that falling in the wrong hands. Otherwise, people have access to your entire integration. But we also provide some security features here. So if your key is compromised, you can always generate a new secret key and then just update that key wherever you use it. All right, so back to code sandbox. That's the public key that I've put in here. And then you can see I'm just grabbing a few more parameters: email, first name, last name. I'm getting the amount, and you'll notice I'm multiplying by 100 here. So another important thing to note is that Paystack expects that you pass amounts in the smallest currency units available, right? So in this case, we're passing rand, and so we multiply by 100 so that we're passing the value in cents instead. And then you can see I'm explicitly passing the currency here. It's good practice to do this just because it makes the code easier to read if you're going through it later, and to disqualify incorrect currency as a potential error. So yeah, always try and pass the currency. We'll use the regular ISO codes for the currency. cryptocurrencies. I also have a couple of callback functions here. And so the way that these work, after the function runs, depending on whatever logic I've put in here, one of these actions may also run, right? So the onClose function will happen if I close the checkout modal that pops up. And then the callback function is the logic that will run. Oh, bless you. The callback function is the function that will run after the transaction is complete. All right, so let's go ahead with the demo then. I'm just going to put in test email. Let's do 100 Rand, right? All right, hit pay. And so this is the Paystack checkout. I'll take a little bit to talk about this beautifully designed checkout. Shout out to our design team. But yeah, this is the checkout. You can see this is the email address that I input here. You can also see the amount that I passed that I'm supposed to be paying. Because we're in test mode, we get this nice indicator here just so that we know what's going on. And then we have some different test scenarios we can run through. But I also want to talk about what we see on the left-hand side here, which are the different payment channels that are available to your customers to pay you. So one of the things we pride ourselves on at Paystack is that we want to make it possible for customers to pay in whatever way is most comfortable for them. And we also want to ensure that our merchants are able to accept payments in as many methods as possible. So right now we have about 4 different ways that you can pay in South Africa, but we're always looking for other payment methods that we can integrate to make it easier for more people to pay us, or to pay you, sorry. So first we've got card. You can also pay through EFT using Ozo. And then we have MasterPass, so QR code. And then you can see all the apps that you would be able to use, so all your regular banking apps that accept MasterPass payments. And last but not least, SnapScan, another QR payment method. So for this, I'm just going to go with card and I'll do success so we can see what a successful transaction looks like. I go ahead and pay, and Paystack confirms the successful payment. And you can see this is the logic that I had in my callback function. So just alert me with the transaction reference. So every transaction that is generated on Paystack will receive a unique transaction reference, just so that you can always identify it. You can also pass this reference on your own. So I could have added a value here, and I'm just going to hard code it for this example. But obviously, this is not something that you would want to do, because if you hard code the transaction reference, then you're going to have the same reference on every transaction and it will throw an error. I'll see if I can simulate that actually. So let's try this now. For example 1, let's pay 100 Rand again. All right. Go ahead and pay. And then you'll see in the pop-up, I get, in the alert, I get example 1 as my transaction reference. If I were to try this again without changing the reference, I should get duplicate transaction reference. So you'll get an error message. We won't let you create another transaction with that reference. All right, and there's my onClose function. You can see I got the alert that the window had closed. All right, so that's pop-up. Like I said, very, very easy way to get started. It's not many lines of code at all, and you can literally just copy this and paste it any way you need to, and then obviously just add or remove any extra parameters that you may or may not want to get from your customers. The full list of parameters is available here. And let me just drop this in the chat as well. So yeah, you can see all the things that you'd be able to pass on the transaction. And then also, if we go to our dashboard and take a look at our transactions page, we can now see those transactions that we just tried. So here's the most recent one. You can see the amount I paid. You can see the customer who made the payment. And a nice feature that I really like that helps you when you're trying to troubleshoot any issues customers might be having on your checkout is that we include a transaction timeline if a payment is being made through the Paystack checkout. So what this does is it essentially just tracks what the customer did when the checkout was open and how long they spent on the checkout. So you can see that I made this payment on a desktop. I only made one attempt. I had 0 errors. And then you can see the actual timeline. Attempted to pay with card, successfully paid with card. I spent 3 seconds on the page. So we really do try and give you a lot of information that can help you understand activity on your integration better. All right, so that's pop-up. We're going to talk about redirect now. So let me go back to the docs. Redirect is another way to accept payments on your websites, on your web apps, but it's a little more secure than pop-up is. So with pop-up, we just integrated to our client-side code and we were done. With redirect, you will need to have a server-side component to your integration. But that's what makes it more secure, is that we generate the transactions from our server, which means that there's less chance of someone being able to, fiddle with the amount that's being passed or something like that. So redirect offers you that security, but just requires a little more setup. And essentially how it works is that you just make a call to the Paystack API from your backend, passing the email address of the customer, passing the amount for the transaction, and any other values that you may need. And Paystack will respond with an authorization URL. So a few things actually, an authorization URL, an access code, and a transaction reference. Like we said before, if you, let me see if we have the sample here. Okay, we don't have the sample, but I'll show it to you. But yes, like I said before, you can pass your own reference. So if you pass your own reference, Paystack will just return that same reference to you. The access code, we don't need to worry about for this payment method. But the authorization URL is what we really, really want. So the authorization URL is the URL that you load for the customer to take them to the Paystack checkout to make their payment. So that's how the payment method gets its name, redirect, is because you are redirecting away from your website to Paystack's hosted checkout page. Once the payment is made, you can then redirect the customer back to your website or to any other page that you want to link. So let's dive into that demo as well. I think that was the second code sandbox link that I sent. So again, you can see I have a very, very simple HTML page here. We're just going to collect the email and the amount. But I'll go to our server-side code. And I've done this in Node.js. So, a lot of boilerplate setup at the beginning. But this is what we want to take a look at right now, is our initialized transaction endpoint. So you can see, as I said here, email and amount are the required parameters that we need here. I've included some other stuff, which I'll comment out until I'm ready to explain it. But yeah, we've got our email and amount. You can see I'm multiplying the amount by 100 again, because we need to pass cents. And then we stringify the body and pass that along to the Paystack API. Something worth noting here, so I'm using the node fetch library. And you can see in the headers that I'm passing authorization bearer, and then I have an environment variable that I'm passing for my Paystack secret key. Remember, you don't want to expose these keys. You want to keep them safe. So it makes sense to store them as an environment variable and then only refer to it with the environment variable in your actual code, just in case you don't want to commit your code to GitHub or something and you've actually exposed your keys in the process. So keep it in an environment variable. Make sure that you don't check that environment variable into your Git history. All right, so making the API call to the initialized transaction endpoint here, posting the email and amount, and then I'm waiting for the response. And then you can see on line 36, I do a redirect to the authorization URL that is returned. So like I said, that will take us to the page where we make our payment. And once that's done, we can be redirected to another page. So let's go ahead and try this out. I've got my server running here and my page is up. We'll do another 100 Rand payment. And once I hit pay now, we should be taken to another page. So it's the same checkout, right? But this time it's just not on our website anymore. It's its own page. We still have all the same payment methods here. Everything pretty much works the same. But you'll see when I hit success here and pay, let's see, I get redirected to payment successful. And so this is because I commented it out, but I didn't save the changes. So this line that I had here, the callback URL, this is another parameter that you can pass on your transactions, but is not a required parameter. But what the callback URL does is basically after the transaction is done, you will be redirected to the URL specified here. So you can see this is the URL of the sandbox that I have set up here. And this is the success route. And then you'll see down here, I just have app.get success, and I'm just returning payment successful because payment was successful, because this is test mode. I should take this moment to talk about verifying transactions. So like I said, in this case, I just redirected to the page and I said payment successful. What you would want to do in a real world scenario is that you would want to verify the status of that transaction before going on to tell your customer that the payment was successful or not. And this is important because of the way transactions can be processed. You may have a transaction that fails initially, but then becomes successful, because we have multiprocessor logic that will retry transactions, because we always want to try and get the successful transaction for our customers. So anytime a transaction is done, it's ideal to just verify the transaction, get the status of the transaction, and then use that to decide what post-payment logic to run. So let's go back to the documentation so we can talk about this some more. I'm going to verify payments. And this is the endpoint that you call to verify transactions. All right, so you pass the transaction reference that you get. And let me see if it shows it here. Yes. So if you take a look in my terminal, you'll see that after the transaction, we called get success, and then there's a transaction reference that's been appended at the end. It's passed twice in case you're using trxref or you're using reference. So basically what I would want to do is I would come to my success function here, and knowing that that transaction reference is being appended on the end, I could do, let's say, let reference, I'm just going to destructure it from, I think it should be ref.query.params. And then once I get that reference, I can then go ahead to call the Paystack API and get the status of the transaction. So I'll show you here with this sample. You call it passing the reference, and Paystack will return a response that says true, verification successful, and then you want to check the data object, and we can see here that the status of the actual transaction was success. So we know this transaction was successful. If we are selling something, we know we can now go ahead to ship it to the customer, right? And we can show them the order confirmation page that says your order has been completed, you'll receive your item in 4 to 6 business days. If we checked here and we saw that the status was failed, however, then we may choose to take a different course of action for the customer. But it's important to remember, like I said, that it is possible that a failed state for a transaction is not always the final state for a transaction, right? If a transaction is successful, you know it's successful, you can continue. But it is possible that a transaction can be in a failed state and then change to a success state afterwards, because we will retry the transaction to see if we can, successfully process it on another processor. All right. So let's go back to Code Sandbox. All right, so we covered verifying the transaction. Another thing that I'd like to cover here while we're talking about verifying the transaction is that it's not the only way that you can, calling the Paystack API isn't the only way that you can determine the status of a transaction. We also use webhooks to notify your integration whenever you've had a successful transaction. So let me demo that now. and it will make a little more sense once that's done. To do this, we need to first set our webhook URL on our Paystack dashboard. And to cover webhooks very briefly, just in case anyone needs that, what it basically is we're saying, instead of you calling Paystack to say, hey, has this transaction been successful yet or not? Paystack is saying we'll call you instead, right? So once any transaction is successful on your integration, if you have a webhook URL set, Paystack will attempt to send a payload to that URL with information about the successful transaction. So we're going to set that up now so we can see what it looks like. I have tried many test webhooks in the past, obviously, but this is the one we're using for today. So I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to just try another transaction, but I want to lift this up so we can see it better. All right, so the URL I set, you can see I have a webhook URL here, and it's just going to log whatever the body of the request is that it receives. So let's go ahead and make another payment. Let's pay 10,000 this time. Why not? All right. And all right, so you should have seen this. If you're looking down in the terminal, you can see we have this JSON object that's been printed here. So this is what the payload of a webhook might look like. Let me make this bigger so we can see more of it. In this case, the event was a charge.success event because we processed a successful transaction. And then we have the data object, which contains information about that specific transaction. So we can see here that, status was success. We get the gateway response, which is like a response from the processor or from the banks about the transaction. In this case, which was successful. We have the amount, we have the reference, and a bunch of other information. One interesting object that you get when you verify a transaction or when you get a webhook is the authorization object. And what this object does is it gives you more information about the payment method that the customer used. In this case, I paid with a test card, right? So we get information about the card. I get the BIN, the last four, expiration month, expiration year, card type, all that good stuff. I also get something here called an authorization code. We won't go into this today, maybe in a later session, but the authorization code lets you recurringly bill that card. So this code now represents that card on your integration. And once you have this authorization, if it says reusable true, then that means that you can use this authorization to charge that card later on without the cardholder needing to enter their card details again. So this is great for situations where, if you're running a subscription model or you have some recurring, you expect customers to pay you on a recurring basis, right? If you run a rideshare business and you want people to be able to save their cards so that anytime they take a ride, you can just automatically bill them without them needing to enter their card details, then that's what you would use this authorization object for. Okay, so that's redirect in a nutshell as well. I hope this demo has made sense for everybody. And yeah, I just want to open it up to any questions anybody might have about any of this stuff. So yeah, over to you guys.
All right. Thanks for that. So guys, this is a good opportunity to ask any questions, get any clarity. If you are lost a bit, it's a great time to refresh your mind as well. So please ask the questions, unmute your mic if you can. If not, put the questions on the chat and also on Sonke, and then we'll be able to pick it up. The stage is yours.
And if you have general questions about Paystack as well, I'd be happy to answer those. If you have questions about any of our other products or anything.
Yes, I was actually about to ask that.
Okay.
Let's just say for someone who's hearing about Paystack for the first time, I know this session was focused on accepting payments, but what else can be done with Paystack? What are the possibilities as a developer? what are the possibilities as a non-developer in terms of using Paystack?
Okay, it's a great question. So let's start with developer, and then I'll go to some non-technical folk, right? So for this, I will use our documentation because I love our documentation, and we've done a lot of work to make sure that we cover all the possibilities that developers have when using Paystack API. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Although right now our product offering does vary based on country. But the goal is to have all our products available in all the countries that we're live in. So right now with Paystack, we talked about accepting payments, but I also mentioned we have recurring payments at the end there. And we use that same recurring payments infrastructure to power our subscriptions. So you can create plans and subscribe customers to your plans and run recurring subscription business models with Paystack. As I mentioned before, we also have the split payments feature and multi-split payments, which I think is actually a really, really cool feature. As mentioned earlier, what it does is it lets you take one transaction, but split that transaction across multiple accounts. So going back to my dashboard, I talked about sub-accounts. And sub-accounts are just other bank accounts that you add on your integration, right? So I have a few sub-accounts that I've added here. And you can see there's a split, which defines how much should go to the sub-account and how much should go to the main account. So here's a 50-50 split. This one's 50-50. This one's 95% goes to the sub-account, 5% to the main. But yeah, the feature lets you can play with this in different ways. You can split on a percentage basis or a flat fee basis. And it's useful for situations where, say you're running a school and whenever parents make payment, you want to automatically split what they've paid across, 3 different accounts or something like that, because you want the payments for tuition in one account, the payments for extracurricular activities in another account, the payment for lunch in another account. So you can take that one payment and just have it automatically split for you, and it will reflect in your payouts so that it's easy for you to reconcile. We also accept Apple Pay payments just in Nigeria at the moment, but we're hoping that we'll be able to expand this soon, hopefully. And then we have dedicated virtual accounts, again, not live in South Africa yet, but something that we hope to bring there as well. It's popular in Nigeria because we have a lot of people who pay with bank transfers, and so it's a convenient method for them to use. But yeah, we also let you manage your disputes on the platform. So if you have any chargebacks or claims of fraud or anything, we will notify you on your dashboard. You will have the chance to present evidence that you need to support the claim if you're trying to reject it, or you can just accept it as well. On the roadmap for South Africa as well is the transfers product. We're not live with it yet, but we're hoping that we'll be live with it soon. And this just lets you initiate transfers from Paystack to other bank accounts. So you can see on my dashboard, I had a balance. Yeah, so you can see I have this balance here. It's possible to top up this account via Paystack, and then you can use that to make transfers out to bank accounts. So let me switch to a Nigerian integration just so I can show that. Give you a little sneak peek of what we've got coming up for South Africa. So yes, transfers. Basically, I can create a transfer recipient, and then I can initiate transfers from this balance that I have available here to any of those transfer recipients, and they'll receive it in their bank accounts. So yeah, those are some of the features for developers. I'll also cover, we have libraries and plugins that you can use to make your integration experience easier. We have a lot of community maintained libraries. Officially, we support iOS and Android SDK, as well as a Paystack PHP library. So I see someone asked about if Paystack can be integrated into a mobile application. And yes, that is 100% true. You can integrate Paystack into your mobile applications. Let me drop the link to this page as well. So you can go there and just clicking on either one of these will take you to the GitHub repo, and in the README there are instructions on how you can go about integrating. And then, as I mentioned, we have a bunch of community maintained libraries. We have a healthy community who enjoys contributing to Paystack. So regardless of what you are integrating on, it's likely there's a library that will help you with your integration. All right, so for non-developers, as I mentioned before, we have our commerce tools. Okay, please let me know if everyone can hear me. If you
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right, cool. Someone asked for the docs page. Here you go. That's the homepage of the documentation. Let me also share the API reference. That may be helpful as well. All right. So yes, for non-developers, I mentioned some of the commerce tools that we offer. So let me give you a quick look at some of those. We've got payment pages. So imagine it as a very basic form builder, right? It lets you can create a page and then you can add fields to it. The default page will just collect first name, last name, email address, amount. But you can also add fields. So if I click on edit page now, you can see all the options that I have. Name page, I can have a fixed payment amount. I can collect phone numbers if I want to. I can name my page, give it a custom link, choose if I want to redirect after payment. And then you can see I can add some custom fields here. And so if I go ahead and visit this page, you see I just have a simple form here I can fill out and go ahead and make payments. So Paystack takes care of the page for you and everything. So this is a really simple way to get started. If you like I said, if you don't have the technical expertise to build a page like this, or you also just need it to get something up and running very, very quickly, why bother building it when Paystack has already built it for you, right? So you can just create a page and then share this link with whomever you want. They can come to this page and go ahead and pay you. We also have products, so you can put products on your payment pages. You can have standalone pages for your products, and you can also have storefronts for your products. Products on payment pages, again, it would look similar to what I showed you before, but it would just be a listing of the products along with their prices. You can add them to a cart and pay. For an individual product, we have what we call product links. And so the same way you can create a link for a payment page, you can create a link for a specific product. And you can share that link and it will take customers to the Paystack hosted page where they can check out for that product, right? We take care of everything for you. We've got the whole checkout flow here. Fill out your information and you can pay for that. I also mentioned storefronts, which take product links to, I suppose, the next level. So let me open one of mine here. So storefronts just let you take multiple products and list them on a page. Oh, wow, it looks like I don't have any products on this page. Let's open a different one. This one does have products because it has orders. Right, so you can see now I've listed all my products here. I can go ahead and add as many as I want to my bag. Let's add to bag. Let's add this to bag. And then I can go ahead, check out. And yeah, so you get like a nice little store if you're not ready to make the investment in a WooCommerce or a Shopify or something like that, then you can use the free tools that we offer. And then yes, we also have invoicing, a very simple invoicing tool that will let you create simple or professional invoices and send them to your customers to pay you. So let's show you what one of these looks like. This is what it should look like when you open it. They just get fake cakes requested a payment of, and then they can pay now, and it loads pop up, and they can complete the payment. So those are some of the tools available to non-developers. Like I mentioned, on this libraries and plugins page, we also have the plugins. So we've got a bunch of integrations to some of the popular platforms that people use. Like I said, WooCommerce, Shopify, we've got BigCommerce, Wix, and some others. So you can come here and check out all these integrations as well and see if there are any that work for you. And yeah, does that answer the question? I think so.
Hopefully it does answer
Yeah.
the question. If it doesn't, please, Trevor, if it doesn't answer your question, please just jump into that. And then there is one more question from Tejo,
Oh, I missed
who's
that one.
asking, yeah,
About
is
pricing.
it free or are there any monthly charges?
So Paystack charges we charge a fee on transactions. So there's no monthly charge, but let me take you to our pricing page. So for South Africa, this is what our pricing looks like right now. Although this may need an update. So coming, I think the change was put into effect earlier this week. So our pricing model has traditionally been excluding VAT, but we've updated the pricing model for merchants who signed up after the 1st of December, I believe, where we will now be charging VAT inclusive. So I think this page just hasn't been updated yet.
Okay.
All right, we've got another question. Is there a way on how you can have a debit option where you give customer codes and then come people? Okay, so like if I understand you right, I'm hoping I'm saying it right. Jaros.
Jaros.
Jaros. Okay, it's sounds like you're essentially asking about a direct debit product. We do have a direct debit product in Nigeria currently. We're working on making it a more robust product. At the moment, it's a somewhat manual process because it requires a lot of documents to be shared. And we're just yet to get around to streamlining the process to make it easier for our merchants to use it. But it is something that we're exploring and that we're hoping to make available for all our merchants. So,
All right. Thanks for that. Tejo seems to be happy with his response. Jaros, I'm not sure if you are happy with your response. And to the rest of the fellow community, if you have any further questions, please drop them on the chat. But also feel free to unmute without the music background. Please feel to unmute, and then you can freely ask your
Yes.
question.
Sorry, I have a question.
yes.
So I just want to know, so when you what am I saying? Does it mean that you have to create an account? Like, for example, if you are a developer and then you develop, like, let's say, e-commerce for different people, does it mean
Mhm.
that each business it's supposed to have its own account?
To have an account, yes. Yeah, so if you
Okay.
so each account that each site you put together for a different client, you would want to also sign them up for a Paystack account.
Okay, so I just want to
You
ask,
could
so
technically, oh sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So then would then something like, for example, an app like Mr. D Food, where there's like a variety of business there. Maybe you are a developer, you develop something like that. Would that be possible with like Paystack?
See, this is why I need to spend more time in South Africa because I'm not familiar with Mr. T Food. So would you mind
O-
giving me a little
Okay, so Mr.
insight?
D
How does it work?
is an app with different restaurants there, so you
Okay,
can buy food there on the app. So I just wanted to
I see.
know
Okay, so
with
it's like
like
a
a
more
variety
like a
of,
vendor type situation,
sorry, what?
Yes. So Mr.
kind of like
D
a
is
vendor setup.
you could look at Mr. D as Uber Eats.
Okay. Okay. So you're wondering if you have all these different platforms or these different like eateries or restaurants on the platform, would each
Yeah,
one of
on a
them need to now open their own account?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Would it
I
be
get you.
possible to pay like to distribute that?
Yeah. So there are two ways that you could accomplish this currently. Um, one way would be yes. So you have each restaurant that signs up also open a Paystack account, right? You then collect their API keys and process transactions on their behalf. So your setup or whatever is like you've built all the logic that actually accepts orders, um, you know, charges the customers and pays the right people or whatever. So you're now just like routing payments to the appropriate merchants using their API keys. That's one way you could do it. Another way is that you have one Paystack integration, and then every restaurant that signs up, you create a sub account for them, right? So each one of them is a sub account, and then you have like your defined split. So if you on the platform are taking, I don't know, 1% or whatever, then you might do like, yeah, 99% goes to that account, and then the 1% goes to you. So that way they don't have to set up Paystack accounts, and you are just handling all the actual processing of payments.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Cool. Anyone else have a question? All right. Looks like no one else has any further questions. How do we reach out to you guys? In
Yes.
case
So,
the tips and some
Oh, sorry,
assistance.
guys. I have a question.
oh, okay.
All right. Please go ahead.
Um, I might have missed it, but how long does it take for the money to clear from Paystack to you, basically, to your
So
bank
on
account?
right now we're on a T+3 schedule. So 3 days for South Africa right now.
Thank you.
hmm but well, I mean, we're looking for ways that we can make it shorter. But yeah, so check here, yeah, 3 working days after payout. But we're looking for ways that we can make it shorter. Right now we're on a T+1 schedule in Nigeria. So if we could do T+1 everywhere we are, I think merchants would be very happy about that.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else?
All
Cool.
right, so you asked about reaching us, right? So
Yes.
a few ways you can. Coming here to grab this link because I don't have it. So you can join our Slack called Payslack, and that's where we engage with the community, offer support. If you need any help with anything, there are a bunch of channels in there that either me or one of my teammates or one of the members of the community will be able to help out. If you want to contact support directly, you can do that by emailing support@paystack.com, or you can also do support@paystack.com directly if it's a technical issue. The first one, obviously, if you're having issues around like payouts or other questions around your business or your integration, you can email support@paystack.com. If you know that it's a directly technical issue, then yeah, go ahead and email tech support@paystack.com. My email is also tolu@paystack.com, so you guys can hit me up if you ever need anything.
All right. Thanks for that, Tulu. So you guys got the contact details in terms of how to continuously reach out to the Paystack team. If there is no further question related to Paystack, I just want to first congratulate McLintashi on Twitter. I don't know if I pronounce it right. McLintashi on Twitter. He started learning Node.js from scratch last night. I get some of the basics so far, like making use of file system functions. So the reason why we're congratulating him is because he's getting a gift hamper from CPSI containing some cool stuff, and this is part of the learning journey. So to the rest of the participants taking part, as we said, this is about starting and finishing what I mean. It's about finishing what you started, and part of the journey is learning. So if there's something that you're learning, let us know. Tell us what is it that you're learning, what is it that you're gaining. Give us some feedback. It's gonna also help strengthen things in going forward in terms of us having a much more clearer idea what are some of the things that you would like to learn. So congratulations to you. Your CPSI hamper will be sorted and heading your way. And there's a question about, will there be any other sessions for today? We have a party at 7, I think. And let's gather there. It's just really about coming together as a community. It would be great to hear what you guys have been up to in terms of learning challenges for the year. But we'll touch base then. So there is that particular session. Mr. T, I'm not sure if there is anything else you'd like to add.
No, nothing from my end. Thank you all for having me. This was fun. I always enjoy doing these sessions.
All right, so thank you too for that.
Yeah.
To everybody else, if there's no other further questions, thank you for being with us today in the morning, and also now with this Paystack DevLab session. If you have any other further questions, please go to Songcare, ask the questions there, and then the team will be able to assist you with your questions. And then thank you very much, and have yourself a good afternoon.
All right, everyone. Have a good weekend.